The city breathed cold that night. A thin mist coiled through the broken lights of downtown Atlanta, whispering over cracked sidewalks and half-frozen puddles that caught the glow of neon signs. It was late, past the hour when buses stopped running and when the hum of drones overhead faded into the distance. Amara Jenkins walked alone, clutching her backpack to her chest as the wind cut through her jacket. She had stayed too long at the community tech hub again, debugging the Youth Robotics Club's latest creation, a jittery cleaning drone made from scrap parts. Her fingers were stiff, her breath turning to silver in the air. She walked faster, passing the mural of Dr. King that stretched across the side of an old brick building, its colors muted under the frost. Her mother always said, "Atlanta, don't ever sleep. She just hums softer at night." But tonight, even that hum felt frozen. Something stirred behind the dumpster by the alley's end. Amara froze, her heart jumping against her ribs. She heard a faint rustle, then a sound that didn't fit, a trembling breath, sharp and high like metal scraping glass. "Hello?" she whispered, stepping closer. A figure moved in the shadows. Not a man, not quite a child. When her phone light caught the shape, Amara gasped. The small figure crouched against the cold concrete, shivering violently. Skin that shimmered faintly, as if silver dust ran beneath it. Eyes, huge and black, reflecting the light like liquid onyx. He was wrapped in torn fabric, barefoot, trembling. For a heartbeat, fear and wonder collided in her chest. Every news feed had been screaming about something in the sky. Strange lights, radar distortions, theories of contact. But standing here, the reality wasn't terrifying. Say it was heartbreaking. Hey, it's okay," she murmured, lowering her light. "You're freezing." The small being looked up, lips trembling. "Key cold," he stammered, the word brittle, foreign. "Lost." Without thinking, Amara unzipped her jacket and draped it over him. He flinched at first, then leaned into the warmth, his shoulders relaxing beneath the fabric. She crouched beside him. "You're going to be okay. My name's Amara. What's yours?" He blinked slowly, as if translating her meaning, then whispered, "Kale." The name came out like wind brushing metal. "Kale," she repeated softly, her breath misting. "All right, Kale. We got to get you out of this cold." She looked around, empty streets, flickering signs, distant drone lights sweeping across the skyline. If she called anyone, they'd take him. The government had already declared containment orders for any unknown entities. Everyone online talked about alien pathogens, security threats. But looking at him, shaking beneath her jacket, all she saw was a scared kid who couldn't survive the night alone. Her mother's words echoed in her head. "Kindness is never wasted, even when it scares you." "Come on," she said gently. "My house isn't far. You can warm up there." Kyle tried to stand, but his legs wobbled. Amara slipped an arm around him, surprised by how light he was, how cold his skin felt through the jacket. They moved slowly, one step at a time, through the wind and streetlight haze. When they reached the car parked under the flickering street lamp, she opened the passenger door and guided him in. He curled against the seat, his eyes closing briefly. The faintest hum escaped him, a melodic vibration that almost sounded like music, like he was trying to mimic the rhythm of her heartbeat. As Amara started the engine, the radio came alive with static and urgent voices. "Unidentified object sighted again. Possible landing near South Atlanta. Citizens advised to remain indoors." She turned it off. The city stretched ahead, dark and uncertain. She glanced at Kale, whose small hand clutched the edge of her jacket. "Don't worry," she whispered. "I got you." And though she didn't know it yet, that simple act, the warmth of fabric shared between two worlds, was about to change the fate of both. If stories of kindness changing worlds move you, subscribe for more tales like this. The apartment smelled like cinnamon tea and soldered metal. Warm light spilled from a cluster of handmade lamps, each carved from recycled glass bottles that glowed in shades of gold and amber. Amara pushed the door open with her shoulder, guiding Kale inside. He hesitated on the threshold, blinking against the sudden light, his silver skin reflecting every hue in the room. "Mom?" Amara called softly. "You home?" "Doctor." Ayana Jenkins appeared from the hallway, wrapped in a loose robe, her hair tied back in a scarf patterned with red and bronze triangles. She froze when she saw Kyle. The warmth in her face vanished. "Amara, what is that?" Amara stepped between them. "He's not a that, Mom. His name's Kyle. He was outside, freezing. I couldn't just leave him." Ayana's voice hardened. "You brought an alien into my house? Do you realize what's happening outside? The city's under alert. Military units are everywhere." "He's just a kid," Amara insisted, her voice rising. "Look at him. He's scared, not dangerous." Kyle stood silently, his wide eyes darting between them. The rhythmic shimmer beneath his skin dimmed, as if shrinking from the sound of their voices. Ayana rubbed her forehead. "Amara, baby, compassion is beautiful, but this is bigger than us. You have no idea what contact like this could mean. Pathogens, surveillance, political chaos." Amara cut her off. "And what about humanity? Grandma used to say, Ubuntu." "I am because we are," Ayana finished softly, the anger in her tone faltering. They both fell quiet. The hum of the apartment filled the space, soft jazz from the old speaker, the gentle whirl of the purifier fans. Kyle made a faint sound, his voice trembling. "Cold. Hurt." He pressed his hands to his chest as if trying to hold himself together. Ayana's heart broke a little at that. Maternal instinct outweighed logic for a single moment. "Lord, give me strength," she murmured, then motioned toward the living room. "Sit him near the heater." Amara smiled faintly, relief washing over her. She helped Kyle settle on the worn couch, pulling a blanket around him. His fingers clutched the fabric, fascinated by the softness. Ayana knelt beside him, studying the faint glow on his skin. "He's not like anything in the reports," she whispered. "Those broadcasts said the entities were aggressive." "Maybe they were wrong," Amara said quietly. "They usually are." Ayana looked at her daughter, the same determined spark she'd had since childhood, when she once defended a stray dog from a group of boys twice her size. "You get that stubborn streak from your grandmother," she muttered, standing. "All right, we'll keep him here for now." "But just tonight, Amara, just tonight." "Thank you, Mum." "I didn't say I was happy about it," Ayana replied, walking toward her home lab. "I'll need to scan him, make sure he's not carrying anything harmful." Kyle flinched at the word scan, backing into the couch cushions. His glow pulsed erratically. Amara knelt beside him. "It's okay. She just wants to help." After a tense pause, Kyle nodded. Ayana returned with a small handheld scanner, its blue light sweeping gently across his body. The screen blinked with unreadable data. No toxins, no dangerous anomalies, only high radiation tolerance and an oxygen deficiency. "His physiology's stable, but he can't stay exposed to our air for long," Ayana murmured. "He'll need protection." "I'll find a way," Amara said instantly. Her mother sighed, giving her a look that mixed love and resignation. "You always do." For the first time, Kyle smiled, a fragile curve of lips, hesitant but sincere. His eyes glowed faintly brighter, reflecting Amara's face like a mirrored moon. Outside, sirens echoed faintly across the city. The government's broadcasts played through nearby apartments, warnings, curfews, orders for citizens to report unusual sightings. The weight of what Amara had done pressed against her chest, but she didn't regret it. She looked at Kyle again, at the trembling boy wrapped in her blanket, and whispered mostly to herself, "You're safe now." Yet deep down, a small voice whispered back, "Nothing stays hidden forever." Morning arrived heavy and grey, the kind of day that carried a warning in the air. Amara woke to the low hum of the purifier and the scent of coffee drifting from the kitchen. For a brief second she forgot about the night before, until she noticed the empty couch cushion and the faint shimmer of light beneath the basement door. Kyle was awake. She slipped downstairs quietly. Her mother's lab lights glowed soft blue, reflecting off half-assembled drones and circuits that crawled across metal tables. Kyle sat cross-legged on the floor, holding one of Ayana's mechanical prototypes in his hands. He tilted it back and forth like a puzzle, fascinated by its reflection. When he looked up, his dark eyes brightened. "Amara," he said carefully, his accent soft and airy. "You're learning fast," she said, smiling. "Guess I'm a good teacher." He tilted his head, mimicking her grin in a way that was both endearing and uncanny, but before she could say more, the sharp, restless tone of the television upstairs cut through the silence. They rushed up. Ayana stood frozen before the screen. The news anchor's voice trembled between disbelief and alarm. "Global alert. Military satellites confirm the presence of multiple unidentified crafts above Earth's orbit. Officials call for calm, but border nations are mobilizing defensive systems. Citizens are advised to report any signs of contact." A collage of shaky videos filled the broadcast, bright streaks cutting through the night sky, blurred shapes hovering over oceans, and one frame showing what looked like a luminous figure standing in a field somewhere in Kansas. "God have mercy," Ayana murmured. "It's happening everywhere." Amara felt Cale's hand tug lightly at her sleeve. His expression was pained, his glow dimming. "They afraid," he whispered. "Yes," Amara said softly. "They are." Ayana turned toward them, her face drawn with worry. "Amara, this isn't just fear. It's hysteria. People are already panicking. I saw on my feed this morning protests downtown, folks saying it's Judgment Day. If someone finds out we have him—" "They won't," Amara interrupted. "I locked down the signals. No one can trace what happens in this house." Ayana shook her head. "You underestimate how desperate people get when they're scared." She pointed to the window. "Look outside." Amara pulled back the curtain. Down the block, neighbors stood in small clusters, whispering nervously. Drones buzzed low, scanning rooftops. An old man clutched a sign reading, "Earth belongs to humans." Fear was spreading faster than reason. "See," Ayana said quietly, "compassion can turn dangerous when the world's afraid to feel it." Amara stared at the people outside, her pulse tightening. She remembered every story her grandmother had told about resistance, about standing tall when history demanded courage. "Then we hide him better," she said firmly. Ayana sighed, rubbing her temples. "You're just like your father, always choosing the impossible side of a fight." "I learned it from you," Amara said, and for a second, the tension cracked into a faint smile between them. Kyle watched their exchange, his gaze flicking between mother and daughter. "Family," he said softly, the word clear, almost proud. Ayana's heart softened. "Yes, family," she repeated. The television suddenly blared again. Footage of armed units patrolling major cities, warnings about curfews. One reporter mentioned a new order. "All citizens must report sightings of unidentified entities. Non-compliance will result in federal charges." Ayana muted the sound. "It's begun," she whispered. "They'll come looking, Amara." Amara nodded, her voice steady. "Then we'll be ready." Cale reached out, placing his small hand over hers. His skin pulsed faintly, a silent rhythm of gratitude, or maybe hope. Outside, thunder rolled faintly through the clouds, though no storm had been forecasted. It sounded like the city itself was bracing for what was to come. Amara looked out one last time and whispered under her breath, "Let them be afraid of what they don't understand. We'll show them something better." But even as she said it, doubt coiled quietly in her chest, because kindness, she knew, was hardest to protect when fear ruled the world. By the next evening, the city pulsed with tension. The hum of drones no longer felt distant. It was constant, like the echo of a heartbeat that belonged to someone watching. Amara sat by the window, counting the flashes of blue light sweeping across the street. Every few seconds, one passed close enough to rattle the windowpane. Downstairs, Ayana worked in the basement again. The hum of her tools blended with Kyle's quiet breathing. His glow had faded since morning, leaving faint silver patterns across his skin, like veins of frost. Amara brought him water. "You need to drink," she said gently. Kyle took the cup, trying to mimic her movement. His hands trembled. "Air. Hurts," he whispered. Ayana looked up from her workbench, eyes shadowed with fatigue. "I'm building a filtration system," she said. Something that mimics his planet's atmosphere, or at least helps his lungs adjust. Amara frowned. You've barely slept. I'll sleep when the world stops looking for him, Ayana said, without looking up. Right now, that boy's life depends on how fast I can finish this. The television in the corner played on low volume, news anchors repeating the same warnings, the same blurred footage of strange lights, the same faces of fear. A breaking update scrolled across the screen. Joint Task Force announces sector sweeps across Atlanta region. All heat signatures must be verified. Amara's chest tightened. They're getting closer. Ayana set her soldering iron down. How do you think they'll find anyone? Thermal drones, Amara said immediately. The kind they use for fire rescues. They'll detect body heat, even underground. She looked at Kale, whose body shimmered faintly. And he probably shows up even brighter than we do. Ayana's silence confirmed her fear. That night, Amara slipped out to meet Malik. He waited for her by the old food stall near the corner of Ralph David Boulevard, the smell of fried plantains still hanging in the air, though the stand was long closed. "Girl, where you been?" he said, adjusting the hood of his jacket. His expression shifted when he saw her face. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Not a ghost," she said quietly. "Something real. Something different." Malik raised an eyebrow. "You mean one of them?" She hesitated. "If I told you I met one, if I told you he's not dangerous, would you believe me?" He stared at her for a long moment. "Amara, you gotta stop watching those live feeds. The city's losing its mind." "It's not about that," she said. "It's about what's right. Everyone's ready to hunt, but no one's trying to understand." He shook his head. "Look, I care about you, but this is serious. If you know something, you have to tell someone. People are disappearing over this." She stepped back. "No, Malik. I can't." The look on his face, half fear, half disbelief, cut deeper than she expected. "Whatever you're doing," he said quietly, "be careful, because if they catch you, they won't ask questions first." When Amara returned home, the sky had turned orange from searchlights cutting through the clouds. Drones swept in patterns across the block. She hurried inside. Ayana was asleep on the couch, the finished respirator resting beside her. The device was small, shaped like a curved shell, its vents glowing faint blue. Kyle sat silently near the heater, his eyes distant. "She helps," he murmured, nodding toward Ayana. Amara smiled softly. "Yeah, she does." She handed him the device. "Try this." He fitted it against his mouth and inhaled slowly. The light under his skin brightened again, rippling like liquid stars. For the first time since she'd found him, he smiled fully. Fragile, yet real. "Better," he said. Relief bloomed in Amara's chest, but before she could speak, a low rumble shook the window. Outside, a search drone hovered directly over the building, its red sensors scanning the block. Amara froze. Kale looked at her, the glow in his skin flickering. She whispered, "Don't move." Above them, the drone's mechanical hum deepened, sweeping closer to the window, slow, deliberate, hunting. The red light flickered through the window, cutting across the walls in sharp flashes. Amara's pulse pounded in her ears as she crouched beside Kale. The drone hovered outside for what felt like an eternity, its mechanical hum vibrating through the glass. Kyle's glow dimmed until his skin looked almost human. Then, slowly, mercifully, the sound faded. The drone drifted away, swallowed by the night. Amara exhaled, the air trembling out of her chest. That was too close. Ayana stirred awake, disoriented, until she saw their faces. "They scanned the building, didn't they?" "Yeah," Amara whispered. "But they didn't find us." Ayana rubbed her temples. "They're adapting faster than I expected." She glanced toward Kyle, who sat still, eyes distant, his fingers tracing invisible patterns on the air. "Is he communicating?" Amara turned to watch. Faint light pulsed from Kyle's skin, soft rhythmic waves that formed shifting shapes in the dim room, circles, spirals, bursts of color that faded into one another like breath. "Kyle?" she asked softly. "What is that?" He didn't answer at first. Then, haltingly, Words, not yours, mine. Ayana leaned forward, fascinated. It's a visual language. Each pulse carries data, emotion, maybe tone. He's speaking in light. Amara's eyes widened. He's showing us how he feels. Kyle looked at her, the glow warming into gold. Safe, he said, the light pulsing once. Then another pattern, softer, like ripples. Grateful. The word broke something open in Amara's chest. You're learning our words, she said, voice trembling. And teaching us yours. Ayana grabbed her tablet and began recording the patterns. If we can translate this system, we could build a bridge between human and saurian communication. Not just words, emotions. For the next few hours, they worked together. Amara wrote code to track the frequencies in Kyle's light patterns, while Ayana analyzed the rhythmic intervals. Kyle watched closely, mimicking their gestures. Each time Amara smiled at a successful reading, his skin shimmered brighter, echoing her joy. Do you realize what this means? Ayana said quietly, staring at the screen filled with oscillating waves. He's not just mimicking speech, he's reaching out. Amara looked up. Then we have to reach back. She pointed to a faint pulse sequence Kale emitted whenever she said her name. That one, what does it mean? Kale touched his chest, then hers, the golden light steady. Amara, he said. Then another pulse, brighter, tender. Friend. The word carried a weight that made her throat tighten. Ayana blinked away sudden tears. It's beautiful, she whispered. But the beauty of it didn't erase the reality pressing against their walls. Outside, the city trembled with unrest. Every hour brought new alerts, conflicts, curfews, fear thickening like smog. Yet in that small basement, something opposite was growing, understanding. As dawn edged closer, Kyle grew restless. His lights flickered in erratic patterns that made the room pulse like a heartbeat gone wild. Kyle, Amara asked, alarmed. What's wrong? He pressed his hands against his chest. Family, he said, voice cracking. Far, away, hurt. His light shifted to deep blue, a color that radiated loss. Ayana's gaze sharpened. He's saying others are out there. Survivors, maybe. His people. Amara's heart twisted. We have to find them. Ayana hesitated. We can't go chasing signals while the government is scanning every block. We'd be arrested before we got 2 miles from here. Then we help from here, Amara said, determination solidifying in her voice. We use his language. We send something back. Ayana looked at her daughter, the same fire in her eyes she'd once seen when Amara fought to protect a friend from bullies years ago. You really think a few pulses of light can change anything? Amara met her gaze. It changed us. Kyle looked between them, his glow shifting to a gentle amber. Together, he said softly, his word clear now, steady. Together. Ayana reached for Amara's hand, then for his. For a moment, 3 worlds touched, mother, daughter, and something beyond both. Outside, another drone passed in the distance, its searchlight sweeping silently across the neighborhood. But for now, in the small glow of their fragile truce, the fear outside didn't matter. Something new had begun, a dialogue not of power or fear, but of empathy. And though Amara didn't know it yet, that single connection would echo far beyond Atlanta's sky. The following night carried a silence too deep to trust. Atlanta's air felt charged, restless like the pause before a thunderstorm. Amara sat at her computer, eyes fixed on the monitor glowing with coded patterns of Kyle's language. Her code was finally translating basic emotional pulses into digital form, a primitive bridge, but a beginning. Kyle sat beside her, adjusting the breathing device Ayana had built. Every time he exhaled, faint light shimmered through the air. It felt almost peaceful, yet beneath that peace Amara sensed tension, an unease neither of them could name. Ayana's voice drifted from the kitchen. You two should rest. It's almost dawn. Just a few more minutes, Amara called back, her fingers still moving across the keys. She wanted to perfect the transmission before the next sunrise. Maybe then Cale could send a signal to find others of his kind. A soft knock echoed at the door upstairs. 3 short taps, one long, familiar. Amara frowned. Only Malik knocked like that. She hesitated, then climbed the stairs. When she opened the door, Malik stood there, hood pulled low, eyes darting nervously up and down the street. "You weren't answering your messages," he said. "I've been busy," she replied carefully. "It's not safe to be out right now." He stepped inside. "I know. That's why I'm here. Look, I needed to check on you. I heard about the sweeps. They're searching door to door in Midtown. People say they found something near Cascade." Amara's stomach tightened. "Found what?" "An energy signature. Same kind of radiation the news says comes from those aliens." Malik looked at her sharply. "You'd tell me if you knew something, right?" She forced a small laugh, but it came out brittle. "You really think I'd be hiding an alien in my mom's basement?" Malik didn't smile. "I think you care too much for your own good sometimes." Before she could answer, a faint sound drifted from below, Kyle's voice humming softly in his strange melodic tone. Malik froze. His eyes widened. "What was that?" "Nothing," she said quickly. "Just one of Mom's prototypes." But it was too late. Malik moved toward the basement door, curiosity overtaking caution. Amara grabbed his arm. "Don't." He looked at her, hurt, confused. "You're hiding something. Amara, if this gets traced back to you—" "I'm protecting someone," she cut in. "He's not dangerous. He's a kid. Lost, scared, and everyone wants to turn him into an experiment." Malik stepped back, shaking his head. "You don't understand how bad this is. People are vanishing for less. If they find him here, they'll take your mom too. Then help me keep him safe," she pleaded, but Malik's face was already pale. "I can't," he whispered. "You're crossing a line, Amara." He left before she could stop him. The door shut with a finality that made her heart drop. Downstairs, Kyle looked up when she returned. His glow flickered. "Friend? Angry?" Amara swallowed hard. "He's just scared." But she wasn't sure if she was saying it for Cale or herself. Hours later, thunder rolled across the sky. Ayana had gone to lie down, exhaustion finally catching up. Amara dozed at her desk, head resting on folded arms, until a sudden rumble jolted her awake. Not thunder this time, engines. She ran to the window. Outside, the street blazed with white light. Black vehicles lined the block, marked with the emblem of the Joint Task Force. Soldiers fanned out silently, scanning homes one by one. Her stomach turned to ice. "Mom!" she shouted, racing downstairs. "They're here!" Ayana stumbled from her room, eyes wide. "How? No one knew." But Amara already knew. Malik. He must have thought he was saving her. Kyle stood frozen, trembling as the lights from outside bled through the basement window. His breathing device flickered. "They come," he said, voice barely audible. Amara grabbed his hand. "We're not letting them take you." Ayana's gaze hardened. "Basement tunnels. The old maintenance drains under the block. They lead out to the train yard." Boots hit the porch outside. Metal scraped against the door. Amara looked at her mother. "You coming?" "I'll buy you time," Ayana said firmly. "Go." The door exploded inward before Amara could argue. Soldiers shouted orders. She pulled Kyle toward the back, heart pounding, every step echoing with the sound of betrayal. Behind her, the world shattered into chaos. The roar of boots and orders faded behind them as Amara and Kyle ran into the darkness. The tunnel air was damp and cold, thick with the scent of rust and old rain. Her lungs burned, but she didn't stop. The only sound was their breath and the echo of water dripping from unseen cracks above. Kyle stumbled once, his light flickering weakly. "Tired," he gasped, clutching his chest. "Just a little farther," she urged. "We're almost safe." They reached a junction where the tunnel widened into an old maintenance corridor. Broken lights hung like dying stars from the ceiling. Amara pulled open a rusted gate that led into a forgotten passage, one she'd discovered years ago when she and Malik used to explore abandoned subway lines. The irony twisted her stomach. When they finally emerged into a dim underground chamber, Amara collapsed against the wall, panting. Kyle crouched nearby, his breathing shallow but steady. For the first time in hours, there was silence, until a voice called softly from the shadows. "You look like you're running from the world, child." Amara turned sharply. A tall woman stepped into the light, skin deep brown, hair wrapped in gold fabric, eyes calm and knowing. She carried herself like someone who had survived every kind of storm. "I'm Mama Lou," the woman said, "and you're in my home now." Amara straightened, wary. "We didn't mean to trespass." Mama Lou smiled gently. "Nobody trespasses here." They arrive when they've got nowhere else left to go. Behind her, several others appeared, men and women of all ages, dressed in worn clothes but with steady eyes. They carried tools, lanterns, food. The underground community was alive. Amara hesitated. "We're hiding." Mama Lou's gaze softened. "Aren't we all?" She looked past Amara to Kale, who sat trembling beside the wall. "That your friend?" Amara nodded. "He's different. They're hunting him." Mama Lou's expression didn't change. "Different don't scare me, baby. The world been hunting us for being different since before the stars started watching." Her words settled deep into Amara's chest. Mama Lou motioned for them to follow. "Come on, you both look half frozen." The chamber opened into a larger space filled with makeshift tables, hanging cloth dividers, and soft light from recycled solar panels. It felt like an underground village, humble but alive. A young man stepped forward carrying a tray of tools. His hair was shaved close and grease stained his hands. "This the one you said needed help, Mama?" "This here's Kofi," Mama Lou said. "Best fixer in all the tunnels." Kofi studied Kale curiously but without fear. "You're not from around here, huh?" Kale tilted his head, unsure how to answer. Amara smiled faintly. "That's one way to put it." Kofi nodded, already setting his tools down. "His device's power core's unstable. I can reinforce it with copper mesh, maybe extend his breathing filter." Amara blinked. "You can do that?" He shrugged. "Underground teaches you how to keep things alive when nobody else will." While Kofi worked, Mama Lou poured tea from a steaming pot. The aroma of ginger and mint filled the air. "You got good people out there looking for you?" she asked. Amara looked down. "My mom." "She's still out there?" Mama Lou's eyes grew heavy with empathy. "Then you hold on to that. The world can take everything from you, but not the ones who taught you how to love." Amara nodded, the words settling in like warmth. When Kofi finished, Kyle's breathing steadied again. The glow in his chest brightened. He looked up and whispered, "Thank you." Kofi smiled. "See? Doesn't matter what planet you're from. Gratitude sounds the same everywhere." Mama Lou chuckled. "Now that's truth." But even in this fragile peace, Amara couldn't relax. The sound of footsteps above echoed faintly through the concrete. The world outside hadn't stopped searching. It had only paused to catch its breath. Mama Lou noticed her tension. "Rest easy, child," she said. "The world don't find what it don't know exists. Down here we protect our own." Amara looked at Kale, then back at Mama Lou. "For how long?" she asked quietly. Mama Lou stirred her tea, her expression unreadable. "Long enough," she said, "but the day always comes when the hiding ends." Amara stared into the dim tunnel beyond, the words lingering in her mind like a whisper from fate. Days blurred together in the safety of the tunnels. Time moved differently underground, measured not by clocks, but by the rhythm of voices, the hum of machinery, and the soft flicker of lanterns that never went out. Amara found herself feeling something she hadn't felt since the night her world collapsed. Hope, fragile but alive. Kyle's condition had improved. With Kofi's reinforced filter and Mama Lou's herbal concoctions, his color had returned, his eyes clearer and brighter. He spent hours sitting near the vents, studying the faint beams of light that seeped through the cracks above, his silver skin glowing like quiet fire. One night, while most of the camp slept, Amara woke to find Kyle standing beneath one of those beams, palms outstretched. The light caught between his fingers, scattering into tiny sparks that floated upward. "Kyle?" she whispered, stepping closer. He turned slowly, eyes filled with something she couldn't name. "Home," he said softly. "It calls." "What do you mean?" He touched the small crystal embedded near his throat, a feature Amara had never noticed before. As he pressed it, the air shimmered. A projection bloomed into being above his hands, an image so vivid it made her gasp. It was a planet, luminous and blue-silver, surrounded by a ring of moons. Oceans glimmered like liquid glass. Cities of light stretched across the surface in patterns that pulsed like constellations. "That's where you're from," she breathed. He nodded. "Theria," he said, voice trembling. "My home." "My people." The hologram shifted, revealing figures that looked like him. Tall, radiant beings with skin like flowing metal and eyes full of light. They stood beneath twin moons, hands raised toward the sky. Amara felt a tear slip down her cheek. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Kyle's glow dimmed, his voice faltering. "Family, lost, ship, crash." She wanted to comfort him, but words felt too small. So she did what came naturally. She placed a hand on his shoulder, grounding him in the moment. "You're not alone anymore," she said. The hologram flickered, then shifted again, this time showing something else, a signal, a steady pulse of light traveling from Theria toward a point near Earth. "What's that?" she asked. Kyle hesitated, then whispered, "They search. For me." Her heart quickened. "They're trying to find you." He nodded, the faintest spark of hope in his eyes. "Need send back answer." Amara's mind raced. If they could replicate his signal, maybe they could guide his people here safely, without the military intercepting. "We can do it," she said. "We just have to find a way to send your signal." Kofi joined them a few minutes later, bleary-eyed but alert, once she explained. "There's a tower near 5 Points," he said. "Old communication hub. Half the city's old grid still runs through there. If we can tap into it, you could boost the transmission." "Would it reach space?" Amara asked. "If it's as strong as the energy his body gives off," Kofi replied. "It might do more than reach, it might answer." Mamalu listened quietly from the doorway, sipping tea. "You children are about to wake up more than just the stars," she said softly. "Be careful what kind of light you send out. Once the world sees it, it can't unsee." Amara nodded. "We'll be careful." That night, Kyle sat beside her as she coded a new interface to synchronize his light patterns with digital signals. His glow pulsed gently in rhythm with the lines of code appearing on her screen, almost as if he understood the language of machines, the same way she understood emotion. When she finally stopped to rest, he looked at her and whispered, "Why help?" Amara smiled faintly. "Because someone once helped my people when nobody else would. We don't forget that." Kyle tilted his head, curious. "Your people?" "Black folks," she said softly. "We've been fighting to be seen, to be free for a long time. You remind me that we still have more bridges to build." Kyle looked up toward the faint light above, then back at her. "Together," he said again, the word glowing like a promise. Amara nodded. "Together." But as she shut down the computer and lay back against the cold wall, a flicker of unease stirred in her chest. If they succeeded in sending the signal, someone else might be listening too. And in a world built on fear, not every light brings salvation. The world above no longer slept. Every few hours, vibrations rippled through the tunnels as convoys rolled by, engines growling like thunder. Amara felt it in her bones. The search had tightened. The walls no longer felt like protection. They felt like ribs around a trembling heart. She worked feverishly beside Kofi, refining the signal that would allow Kale to reach his people. The program was nearly complete, but every new attempt drew dangerous energy spikes. They couldn't risk transmitting underground. "We'll have to move," Kofi said, glancing toward the map spread across the table. "The transmission tower's 5 miles east. That's a long way to go with patrols everywhere." Amara rubbed her eyes. "We can't wait. If Kale's people are looking for him, they need to know he's alive before the government gets there first." Mamalu folded her arms. Baby, you're brave. But bravery and recklessness are cousins. I know, Amara said quietly. But if we do nothing, he dies here. The room fell silent. Kyle sat near the vent, faintly glowing. He looked smaller than usual, his shoulders heavy. I go, he said softly. My choice. Mama Lou studied him, then sighed. Then you ain't going alone. By nightfall, the group was ready. Kofi packed his equipment. Mama Lou handed Amara a small pouch of herbs for strength, and Kale carried the device that linked his light language to Amara's transmitter. The tunnels stretched before them, like arteries leading to the uncertain heart of the city. For a while their footsteps were the only sound. Then came the faint buzz of drones overhead. Through narrow shafts, beams of red light sliced across the darkness. They're scanning again, Kofi whispered. Amara pressed closer to the wall, holding her breath. The beam swept across the tunnel opening, then moved on. For a moment silence returned. But when they emerged into the abandoned subway line near 5 Points, they saw the damage. Collapsed concrete, graffiti burned by heat, the smell of ozone hanging thick in the air. The government was testing weapons now, tearing through old structures to flush out anything alive. Kyle's breathing grew shallow. Air, thin, he gasped. Amara knelt beside him, adjusting his filter. You're okay. Just a little longer. They moved again, weaving through debris and collapsed rails. The city above rumbled with helicopters and shouted orders. Halfway through the tunnel, Kofi stopped. We've got company, he hissed. Amara turned. Shadows moved behind them, dark figures with rifles, flashlights cutting through the dust. Run, she said. They sprinted, their breaths ragged. Kale stumbled once, and Amara caught him by the arm. Behind them, a voice shouted, Stop, Federal Task Force! A gunshot echoed, striking the wall beside her head. Sparks rained down. Left! Kofi yelled, leading them through a narrow passage barely wide enough to squeeze through. They emerged into a forgotten service tunnel, where the air smelled of rain and rust. Ahead, faint moonlight spilled through a broken grate. Freedom, or something close. Amara pushed Kyle toward it. Go! He climbed through with trembling hands. She turned to help Kofi when a flashbang detonated behind them. The world went white. The shockwave knocked her to her knees. Her ears rang. She could barely hear Kofi shouting. When her vision cleared, Kyle was pulling her through the grate. They tumbled into an overgrown rail yard, breathless, covered in dust. Kofi landed beside them a second later. Then came the sound of engines, vehicles pulling up on the street above. Searchlights swept across the yard, slicing through the fog. We can't outrun them, Kofi panted. Amara looked at Kale. His glow pulsed erratically, weaker than ever. We can't let them take him, she said. She tore off her breathing mask and pressed it to Kyle's face. Use mine, you need it more. He shook his head, trying to push it away, but she held it firm. Please, Kyle, don't fight me. His eyes shimmered, fear, gratitude, love, all glowing faintly through the mask's reflection. Mama Lou's voice came from behind, breathless. She had followed them, her silhouette outlined against the moonlight. They've got more trucks coming. Amara turned to her, heart pounding. Take him, she said. Get him somewhere safe. I'll draw them away. Child, no! But the engines grew louder. Searchlights swept toward them. Amara looked once more at Kyle. You promised, remember? Together. Kyle's voice cracked. Together. Then she ran, pulling the flashlight from her pack, sprinting across the yard toward the nearest street. The lights followed instantly, locking onto her. Behind her, the world dissolved into shouts and blinding beams. The street swallowed Amara in noise and light. Sirens wailed from every direction, and the thudding of rotor blades shook the night sky. Her lungs burned as she sprinted through the ruins of an old overpass, clutching her backpack, the transmitter still inside. She didn't know how far Mama Lou and Kale had gotten, but if she could finish what they'd started, maybe it would all mean something. A burst of static filled her earpiece, Kofi's voice broken but alive. You still got the rig? Yes, she panted. I'm heading toward the tower. That place is crawling with feds. You'll never get close. I don't need close, she said. I just need signal. She ducked into an alley littered with shattered glass and flickering holographic billboards. The images glitched, faces of newscasters warning citizens to stay indoors, messages flashing, "Alien presence confirmed." "Trust no one." Each word tightened the knot in her stomach. When she reached the base of the old transmission tower, the city stretched before her, a wasteland of fear and confusion glowing beneath the neon haze. The air crackled with energy, electric and heavy. Kofi's voice came again, low and urgent. "Amara, listen, I boosted your interface remotely. Once you connect Kyle's sequence, it'll override every broadcast within 50 miles. "Good," she said. "Then let's make them listen." She opened the backpack and pulled out the small crystalline core Kyle had left behind, a fragment from his translator. The crystal pulsed weakly, responding to her touch. For a moment, she imagined his face, the way his eyes shimmered with childlike wonder, even in fear. "This is for you," she whispered. She plugged the core into her transmitter and linked it to her wrist pad. The device hummed, lights flickering. Data streamed across the screen in rapid bursts, Kyle's light patterns translated into digital language. "Signal ready," Kofi said. "You sure you want to do this?" "If the world's going to see him, they should see the truth," she replied. A spotlight swept past, cutting through the haze. Amara crouched low, heart hammering. Soldiers shouted in the distance, their voices lost in the hum of the city. She pressed the activation key. The transmitter roared to life. A shockwave of energy pulsed outward, invisible but powerful, leaping from node to node across the old city grid. Lights in nearby buildings flickered, then went dark. Screens everywhere blinked once, twice, then filled with Kyle's face. The broadcast hijacked every channel, every billboard, every personal device. The trembling image of the alien boy appeared against a backdrop of shifting colors, his skin glowing softly, his eyes wide with calm instead of fear. Across Atlanta, people froze. Soldiers, citizens, scientists, everyone stopped to watch. Kale's voice came through the speakers, filtered through Amara's translator, fragile yet clear. "We do not come to harm. We seek peace." One helped us. His image looked down and the broadcast shifted, showing a recorded memory. Amara herself appeared on screen, wrapping her jacket around him that first night in the cold alley. The image wasn't perfect, grainy, almost dreamlike, but it was enough. Gasps echoed through every home, every command center. The alien who'd been painted as a threat looked like a lost child saved by human compassion. Kyle's voice continued. "She gave warmth. She gave kindness. We remember." Amara felt her throat tighten. She whispered under her breath, "That's enough, Kyle. They'll see you now." But the system wasn't finished. The translation feed pulsed harder, drawing on every ounce of power it could reach. Energy arced across the tower, sending blue sparks into the air. "Amara!" Kofi shouted through the comm. "You're overloading the grid. Pull out now." "I can't," she said. "It's not done." Static crackled, then cleared. Kyle's last words echoed across the planet. "We thank you, Amara." The broadcast faded to black. The next instant, the tower's circuits blew. The impact knocked Amara backward, her body slamming against the concrete. Sparks rained down around her, the air smelling of ozone and burning wire. She groaned, trying to move, her ears ringing. In the distance, the noise of engines dimmed. For the first time in days, the city had gone quiet. Her screen blinked once before going dark. Transmission complete. Amara lay still for a moment, staring up at the night sky. The clouds above had parted slightly, revealing a single bright point. Something moving slowly among the stars. A faint smile touched her lips. "They heard you," she whispered. Then she let her eyes close as the world held its breath. At first, there was only silence. The kind of silence that makes the air feel heavy, like the world itself was listening. Then, slowly, a murmur began, streets filling with confused voices, phones lighting up again, news anchors stumbling over words they couldn't explain. The broadcast had vanished as quickly as it appeared, but the image of the glowing boy and the girl who sheltered him had already burned into every mind on Earth. Amara drifted in and out of consciousness. She awoke to Kofi kneeling beside her, shaking her shoulder gently. "You're alive," he breathed, half laughing, half crying. Her voice came out as a whisper. "Did it work?" Kofi looked toward the horizon. "Oh, it worked." She followed his gaze. The sky wasn't the same anymore. A thin band of light circled the edge of the clouds, widening as it pulsed. It wasn't lightning nor any aircraft Earth had built. The color shifted from silver to violet to deep blue, painting the skyline in liquid hues. A low hum filled the air, soft, harmonic, almost musical. People poured into the streets, staring upward. News drones hovered in confusion, cameras capturing what every human eye could already see. Kyle's people had come. Amara struggled to sit up, the ache in her body forgotten as awe took over. "They're here," she whispered. Kofi helped her stand. "Yeah, and the government's losing its mind right now." The sound of engines roared nearby, military transports, jets scrambling to intercept whatever hovered above. But before they could reach the lights, a wave of energy rippled through the air, gentle but immense. Every engine stalled, every drone froze mid-air, every weapon shut down as if silenced by invisible hands. And then the sky opened. Clouds parted in a single radiant line. From within emerged enormous shapes, ships unlike anything humanity had imagined. They moved not with force but with grace, gliding silently through the atmosphere. Their hulls shimmered like water, reflecting the city below. Gasps echoed through the crowd. Children pointed, elders prayed. Even the soldiers who'd raised their weapons lowered them slowly, eyes wide with awe. A soft projection materialized above downtown Atlanta, a holographic image, vast and luminous. Cale's face appeared again, but now he was joined by others, taller and older, their expressions solemn yet kind. The sound that followed wasn't words. It was music made of light and vibration, harmonies that resonated deep in the chest, like a collective heartbeat. The translation systems across the city activated automatically, patching through every screen, every radio, every speaker. A calm, resonant voice spoke through the air. "We are the Saurian. We seek no conquest. We came for our lost child. And we found something more." The hologram shifted again, showing Amara's act of kindness replayed in glowing fragments. Her jacket, her hands, her tears. The voice continued. "One among you showed compassion when fear ruled. In that act, she reminded us of what connects all life." Tears welled in Amara's eyes. She felt small beneath the vastness of it all, but somehow she didn't feel alone. Kofi squeezed her hand. "You changed the world, Amara," he said softly. Nearby, Mama Lou appeared with Kyle beside her. He had regained his strength, standing tall, his eyes reflecting the lights above. When he saw Amara, his entire form brightened. "Home," he whispered. "Yeah," she said, smiling through tears. "Your home found you." The crowd erupted in shouts, some joyous, some fearful, but no one could deny the miracle before them. The Saurian ships hovered low, their light spreading warmth across the city. No attack came, no weapon fired, only silence and the shimmering peace of understanding. Amara looked up at the largest ship, its light spilling like dawn over the skyline. "Please," she whispered, though she didn't know if they could hear, "don't let them twist this into fear again." Above her, the light pulsed once in reply, gentle, affirming. Kofi looked around, disbelief still written on his face. "What happens now?" Amara watched the ships gliding silently across the heavens. "Now," she said quietly, "the whole world has to decide what to do with kindness." The next morning, the world woke beneath a new kind of sky. The Saurian ships still hovered in orbit, their soft glow visible even through daylight. Every news station on Earth replayed the same broadcast, the alien fleet suspended above Atlanta, and the calm voice that had spoken of gratitude and peace. Some called it a miracle, others called it a warning. Amara sat on the steps of what was left of the old transmission tower, bandaged and exhausted. The city below buzzed with noise, military units standing down, reporters shouting into cameras, crowds gathering in disbelief. Kofi sat beside her, clutching a dented thermos of tea. "You realize you're trending on every feed in the world," he said. "They're calling you the girl who spoke to the stars." Amara gave a tired laugh. "That's ridiculous. I didn't speak to them. I just listened." Kofi glanced up at the sky, where one of the ships drifted slowly overhead. "Well, they heard you anyway." Across the city, holographic billboards shimmered to life again, not with propaganda or warnings, but with a symbol, two intertwined circles of light, one gold and one silver. It appeared everywhere, accompanied by a deep harmonic tone that vibrated through the air. People stopped what they were doing and looked up. The translation systems activated once more. The same calm Saurian voice spoke across every device, every speaker, every screen. "To the people of Earth, we come in peace. We seek no rule, only connection. One act of compassion changed what we believed about your kind. We offer you our moon as a gift of gratitude and friendship." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The feed cut to a live image of Theria's orbit, a moon glimmering in silver-blue light, its surface alive with crystalline structures that refracted sunlight like prisms. The voice continued, "This moon, rich with energy and life, shall belong to your world, to share in harmony. May it remind you that peace is not conquered, it is given." Amara's breath caught. "They're serious," she whispered. "They're giving us a whole moon." Kofi whistled softly. "That's impossible. No one gives away a planet." But the screens confirmed it. Scientists, stunned and trembling, explained that the Saurian moon held mineral energy beyond Earth's comprehension, enough to power humanity for centuries. Global leaders scrambled to respond, their statements awkward and rushed. Some praised the gesture, others demanded regulation, treaties, control. In the chaos, Amara felt a quiet dread settle in her chest. "They don't understand," she murmured. "This isn't about power. It's about gratitude." Mama Lu found her hours later, her steps slow but steady. "Child," she said, lowering herself onto the steps, "I've seen gifts turn into wars before. The real test ain't what you're given, it's what you do with it." Amara nodded. "They'll fight over it." "Maybe," Mama Lu said. "But you showed 'em something last night. Maybe that memory will stick long enough to keep 'em honest." Amara looked out across the horizon where the silver moon now glowed faintly beside Earth's. "They named it yet?" "Not yet," Kofi said. "The council's arguing over it already." Kyle appeared beside them, his form shimmering softly in the daylight. The breathing filter was gone now. He no longer needed it. "They call it Amara," he said simply. Her eyes widened. "What?" He smiled, a quiet, radiant smile that seemed to carry the warmth of his entire species. "My people named the moon for you." "For kindness." For a moment Amara couldn't speak. Tears welled in her eyes as Kale continued, his voice steady and calm. "You changed paths of stars. You showed us what it means to be more." Kofi grinned. "Guess you're part of the galaxy now." Mama Lu chuckled softly. "Baby, you better start practicing your diplomacy." Amara wiped her tears, trying to laugh, but emotion tightened her throat. "I didn't do this alone," she said. "None of us did." Kyle's gaze turned skyward. "No one ever does." The sound of cheering rose from the city below. For the first time, people weren't screaming in fear. They were celebrating. The tension that had ruled the air for days began to lift, replaced by something lighter, something almost sacred. Amara looked at the glowing moon, now officially hers in name, and whispered, "Let it stay a gift, not a weapon." Above them, the ships shimmered once more, as if in quiet acknowledgement. Peace came fast, and with it came politics. Within a week, world leaders stood beneath the silver glow of the new moon, Amara they called it officially now, and made promises that sounded noble but felt rehearsed. News anchors spoke of unity, scientists of discovery, and corporations of opportunity. But beneath the speeches and shining headlines, Amara felt something hollow take root. Her face was everywhere. Interviews she'd never given, quotes she'd never said, even documentaries she hadn't approved. Her image had become a symbol of the new human era. At first, she thought she could handle it. But fame, she quickly learned, was a kind of captivity. She walked through downtown Atlanta one afternoon, wearing a hood to hide her face. The streets had changed. Vendors sold glowing jewelry, inspired by Saurian light. Kids pointed at holographic ads, showing her holding hands with a digital Kale. The city felt alive but unreal, consumed by what she'd never meant to start. Kofi found her near the MARTA station, sitting on a bench under the old mural of Dr. King. "You can't keep hiding like this," he said, handing her a cup of coffee. "I'm not hiding," she said. "I'm trying to remember who I was before all this." He sat beside her. "You were the same person then. You just had fewer microphones in your face." She smiled faintly. "You think so? I know so." But her smile faded. "They're not listening anymore, Kofi. The Saurians gave us a gift meant for peace, and now every government wants to carve it up. Mining contracts, military bases, patents on their technology. They're turning the moon into another competition." Kofi sighed. "That's what humans do. We turn miracles into markets." Amara stared at the sky where the silver moon glimmered faintly in daylight. "Kyle wouldn't understand this," she said softly. "He believed in connection. He believed we could be better." "You were his proof," Kofi said. "Maybe that's enough." But she wasn't sure anymore. Every message from the Saurians grew more distant, more formal. Their fleet still hovered peacefully above Earth, but contact had slowed. Trust, once warm and human, was turning cold and procedural. Later that night, Amara received a call from a restricted channel. The screen flickered, and Kyle's face appeared. He looked older somehow, still luminous but burdened. "Amara," he said gently, "you look tired." She laughed softly. "That's one way to say it." "How's Theria?" He hesitated. "We watch. We see what Earth does with our gift." Her chest tightened. "You're not happy about it." Kale's glow dimmed. "We did not mean for your people to fight over it. The moon was for all, not for power." "I know," she whispered. "But things here don't change that easily. We're still learning." He studied her face. "You gave warmth once. Now you carry burden." She swallowed hard. "I'd do it again, Kyle, every bit of it, even if it breaks me." Kyle tilted his head, sadness rippling across his features. "You remind us why we offered peace. But peace has cost, for you, for us." She wanted to ask what he meant, but the transmission began to distort, his voice fading into static. "Kale, wait!" The screen went dark. Amara sat back in silence, staring at her reflection in the black monitor. Outside, the city erupted in celebration, news that new trade agreements had been reached with the Saurians, that humanity would soon have access to the moon's energy crystals. The crowd cheered, fireworks bloomed, but Amara didn't celebrate. She thought of Kale's eyes, the weight in them, and of what he hadn't said. Kofi knocked softly on her door. "You okay?" She looked up, forcing a tired smile. "Yeah, just thinking." "About what?" "About how easy it is to lose the meaning of something once the world decides to own it." Kofi stepped closer. "Then maybe it's up to us to remind them." She nodded slowly, her gaze returning to the night sky. The moon Amara glowed brighter than ever, beautiful and unreachable all at once. "Then we'll start there," she whispered, "before peace turns into something else." The morning of Kyle's departure dawned with a stillness that felt unnatural. For weeks, the world had been a storm of negotiations and headlines, but now everything was quiet, as if Earth itself held its breath. The Saurian fleet hovered in perfect formation above the city, massive, shimmering silhouettes framed by the rising sun. Their light reflected off glass towers and rippled across the Chattahoochee like threads of liquid silver. Amara stood at the edge of the landing site, the weight of finality pressing against her chest. She wore a dark coat, the same one she had the night she found Kale. It felt smaller now, worn thin by everything that had happened since. Kofi adjusted the camera drone slung over his shoulder. "You sure you don't want me to come with you to the platform?" Amara shook her head. "No, this isn't for the world to film. It's for us." He nodded quietly. Then tell him goodbye for all of us. She smiled faintly. You'll see him again. One day, when she turned toward the glowing walkway that led to the Saurian vessel, her steps felt heavier than they should have. Every sound, the hum of the ship, the soft wind brushing the grass, seemed sharper, as if her senses were trying to record every detail before it vanished. Kyle waited near the base of the ramp, dressed in fabric that shimmered like water under sunlight. He looked stronger now, fully healed, his glow steady and calm. Yet his eyes carried the same deep kindness she had seen that first night in the alley. "Amara," he said softly. "Kyle," she answered, forcing a smile that trembled. "So this is it?" He nodded. "My people return home. We must prepare for what comes next." She frowned. "What comes next?" He hesitated, then reached into the folds of his garment and withdrew a small pendant, oval-shaped, glowing faintly from within. It pulsed like a heartbeat. "For you," he said. "Memory crystal. Holds what we shared. Our voices, our light." Amara took it carefully, the warmth seeping into her palm. "It's beautiful." "It is. Connection," he said. "Even when far we remember." Her throat tightened. "Will I ever see you again?" Kyle looked toward the sky, where his people's ships hovered like a second constellation. "Paths cross when hearts remember. That is our way." She laughed softly, blinking away tears. "That sounds like something Mama Lou would say." He tilted his head. "Your elder is wise. She sees truth, the way stars see time." They stood in silence for a long moment, the air between them heavy with things neither knew how to say. Around them, dignitaries and soldiers lingered at a respectful distance, waiting for the formalities to end, for history to move forward. Amara finally broke the quiet. "You know, I used to think kindness was small, just something people did when they couldn't fix the bigger problems. But you made me realize it's the opposite. It's the only thing that ever actually changes anything." Kyle smiled, the glow around him brightening. "You changed everything, Amara." He extended his hand, 3 fingers glowing faintly. She took it without hesitation, feeling the hum of energy beneath his skin. It wasn't cold or warm, just alive. When the signal lights along the ramp turned blue, Kale stepped back. "Goodbye," he said. Amara's voice cracked. "Goodbye, Kale." He paused, then looked back once more. "Not goodbye," he corrected gently. "Not until light meets light again." And then he ascended the ramp, his form merging with the radiant doorway. The hum deepened and beams of soft light spread across the field. Amara shielded her eyes as the ships began to rise. The air trembled, shimmering with colors beyond any human spectrum. The fleet climbed higher, forming a spiral of silver trails that coiled upward into the clouds. When the last glimmer vanished, the sky returned to silence. Only a faint shimmer remained, like a promise written in air. Amara stood there, clutching the pendant to her chest. Kofi approached quietly from behind, his voice gentle. "He's gone, huh?" She nodded. "Yeah, but somehow, not really." Kofi looked up at the sky. "Guess goodbye doesn't mean what it used to." Amara smiled through the ache in her heart. "No," she said softly, "it doesn't." Months passed, and the world began to adjust to its new reflection in the sky. The silver moon named Amara now orbited just beyond Earth's old companion, its glow softer, calmer, a second light watching over humanity. Scientists marveled at it, politicians debated over it, and poets wrote about how 2 moons had never looked so much like a conversation between worlds. But for Amara Jenkins, life had grown quieter. The crowds were gone, the cameras had moved on, and the noise of fame had finally dissolved into something she could breathe through. She had returned to her mother's rebuilt lab in West End, now part of a global research foundation dedicated to Saurian human collaboration. It wasn't a monument or a palace, just a space filled with warmth, laughter, and purpose. Ayana was adjusting a small robotic limb when Amara walked in, carrying 2 mugs of tea. "You've been up since before sunrise," she said, setting one on the table. Ayana smiled without looking up. "You know how it is. Curiosity doesn't sleep. Amara chuckled softly. You sound like Kyle. Her mother's eyes softened. You still miss him. Every day, Amara admitted. She touched the pendant that hung around her neck, the Saurian crystal Kyle had given her. It pulsed faintly, the rhythm slow and comforting. But sometimes I feel like he's still here watching. Ayana set down her tools. Maybe he is. The universe has funny ways of keeping connections alive. Outside, a news drone buzzed past the window, broadcasting the day's biggest story, the grand opening of Earth's first joint research base on the gifted moon. The camera feed showed a group of scientists stepping onto the silver surface, their suits reflecting the twin glow of both worlds. The caption read, "The Amara Initiative, Building Tomorrow Together." Kofi's voice came through the lab's comm speaker. You seeing this? Of course, Amara replied. You're supposed to be up there with them. Flight got delayed. Storm over the Cape, he said, chuckling. Figures. History's being made and I'm grounded by bad weather. Maybe history needed a reminder that some things stay unpredictable, she teased. Kofi laughed. You coming to the celebration tonight? They're projecting the new peace monument over Centennial Park. Your face is literally carved in light, Amara groaned. Don't remind me. Too late, Kofi said. You're a legend now, live with it. When the call ended, Amara stared at the pendant again. Through the translucent glow, faint ripples of light shimmered, patterns she hadn't seen before. They moved slowly, almost like words forming underwater. She whispered, Kale? The glow responded, pulsing twice, soft, then bright. A low vibration filled the room, almost melodic. Ayana looked up, startled. Did you just... Amara nodded, eyes wide. It's him. Or... it's his memory. The light spread gently across the table, forming small waves that resembled the Saurian language of emotion. It wasn't a message she could fully read, but she understood its meaning. It felt like warmth, like reunion. Tears blurred her vision. He's saying goodbye again, she murmured. Ayana placed a hand on her shoulder. Or maybe he's saying he never left. Amara smiled through her tears. Yeah, maybe. She stood by the window and looked up at the night sky. The twin moons shone side by side, Earth's old companion and the one given in gratitude. They looked close enough to touch, yet separated by endless space. As she watched, the silver moon brightened briefly, its surface catching the sunlight in a single flash that illuminated the city below. It wasn't dramatic or loud, just a soft, quiet acknowledgement, like a whisper across the cosmos. Amara pressed her hand to the glass. Sometimes, she said softly, one act of kindness really can rewrite the stars. Ayana joined her at the window. And sometimes, she added, it reminds the stars what kindness looks like. Amara smiled, her reflection shimmering against the twin moons. Then let's keep reminding them. The world outside glowed with a peace that finally felt earned, not the peace of treaties or speeches, but of understanding. And as the story of the girl and the alien boy faded into legend, one truth remained carved into the fabric of two worlds. Compassion, once shared, never dies. If you believe kindness can change worlds, subscribe and keep watching for the next story waiting in the stars.